Welcome to today's podcast. Today's conversation is especially for someone who is building in the health tech space and or someone who wants to build in the health tech space. Today we have with us Ms. Kalaiarasi, founder of Thremear, a MedTech venture focused on solving real-world clinical problems. So without much further ado, let's get into the show. Welcome, Kalaiarasi. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
All good, all good. So to start, could you briefly explain me about yourself and the background of how you get into Thremear?
Hello, everyone. Just Kalaiarasi. I did my UG at PG in Medical Technology, and then I soon went for a PhD in neuroscience. Once I finished off my PhD, and then I was looking for postdoc opportunities in other countries. So I'm core researcher actually by background as a missionary. And due to that time only, the COVID stuck, and many of we ourselves were locked down in our homes. So at the time, I used to connect with so many of my old school friends, college friends, where I get to know about the issue of PCOS and infertility things. Till the time I know there was some issue, but I didn't know much of how much of people have been affected through that. In my own family, my sister-in-law, like my husband's sister, had this issue for about 14 years. And right, and during that time only, she was about to conceive at the time. So I have seen her how she has supported her, but I didn't really know how much of percentage of women has been affected. So at that time only, it was like a hit for me. And then with my colleagues during my PhD, we were discussing about that issue. And then we thought, why we can't invest our time and research mind into that. And then we start up this understanding about this PCOS and other things. That's how we started this training.
Always, as I'm also in the health tech space, I can really relate to it. So health tech is one of the toughest of tough fields to be running a business. So what is your take on that, and how are you navigating the changes and hurdles in the health tech space?
When I start off, I was not much into the business aspects actually. As I said earlier, I was core researcher, and from the research point of view, I was looking at the issue, the problem, and how it is affecting man. Apart from that, we thought of a solution. We didn't know that whether the product will be working out into the market, and about the market knowledge, I didn't have much of things. So, especially into medtech space, I didn't even know about the regulatory and everything. Slowly, we start up learning about the basic things. For example, the startup thing or the company norms, and then the regulations and the compliances. It took around, I would say, 1.5 years to even learn about the company policies and then compliances. Especially for a medtech thing. The main, hurdle I would say is to understand about the market actually. So, whenever there is a new product, we simply say the market is good, huge. Whenever we go for pitching, it is easy to convey the sizing numbers or in the papers or in pictures. But actual reality is different. So whenever we meet the real people in real world, the marketing people or even the consumers, the view is totally different than what we are seeing in the pictures. So even though there is a huge market opportunity or no, how the consumer approach the product or understand the product is totally different. And then we really understand why or where we have to change our perspective into the marketing. For example, we may have drawn some strategies to go into the market in the first place. So when we have to go and where we have to go, which is our market in the initial days, those data will be only understandable only when we go into the real people, the real customers. So that was very challenging in the initial days when we consider as a medtech startup. The second part is about, of course, the regulatory thing. Even now, we couldn't totally figure out what is happening in the regulatory space when there is a shift from pharmaceutical to medical device. In medical device also, there is different categories for IVDs. So yeah, it is still a hurdle, I would say.
So I was about to ask this: how do you validate the this is the problem worth solving for the Indian market in the healthcare context. So, as you mentioned about the users and the marketing perspective, I want to know a bit more on how have you arrived at a point that this problem is worth solving for the Indian market.
So it's when I talk with my friends and then family, I was very much into emotional part of the problem. So the emotional part first got into me, but that is not the real way of solving a problem. I would say. So when we are very sick, close with the problem, and then when we wanted to address, we faced several hurdles. So for example, I wanted to bring a solution, but when I meet a gynec who is treating those kind of patients, they had a different idea. They have put a very raw questions before us to make us understand. Okay, this is their problem and this is their solution, but whether it will work out in an Indian community or Indian population. So these were the real raw questions that we were addressing or we were facing, and that changed our perspective. For example, initially we wanted to have our kit to be like testing of hormones. When, but then we were interacting with several gynacs and several of people who have already PCOS who suffered from type 2 or type 3 people, and they expressed concerns of able to go into a clinician on time or booking a test, whether it is a financially or based on the time or something. So then we shaped our solution into a home test kit. Likewise, there are many changes happened in our product development, not only in the development, the design of the product, and then how we have to make it useful for the needy people. So whatever the solution that comes in our mind for the problem is just a single sided, I would say. So when there is multiple perspectives, that shapes our product development and the approach also. That's how we are like we would say we are evolving, and we are right now. I would say that around 90% we have made our product customer ready or consumer friendly. So that's how in the past weeks, many years, this has taken major change in our product development.
So I remember the first time when I met you at ITC, I remember I asked you, can I test your product once? You told we are only doing it for the medical validation. So how is validating the product in the medical placing and all, how is it working? Like from users, hospitals and stakeholders, what is the one thing that they keep talking to you about the product, about Thremear?
Whenever we approach any new hospitals or clinics, the first question is they ask about the sensitivity of the product or how well it is efficacy. Because everybody is stuck with the traditional gold standard methods of diagnostic or treatments, and even the regulatory things. For example, there is a society for a PCOS thing, or even the international gynec society. Everything offers some guidelines which has to be followed by the gynecs or any kind of medical clinicians. So they have to stick with that routine. Whenever there is a new product or new research come up, there is the hesitant actually before the clinician coming. So that is not a thing to blame actually, and this is very much needed, I would say, because every product has to go through some kind of critical examination and then critical comments so that it refines the problem or defines the solution better. So whenever we approach, this was the first comment, like how well your product gonna replace the current clinical methods. So our product is a screening tool. Actually, it is not a diagnostic tool as of now. So we are still building to make it as a diagnostic tool in the coming up years. So as of a screening device, this product offers or understands the better clinical outcomes. For example, our product is a hormone testing where if woman walks into a clinic, under 30 minutes, she can get to understand the clinical values of the hormones rather than waiting for 2 days to get the clinical reports, which is normally done in many parts of our country. So the initial reading offers them to go for a better treatment plan actually. So for a single visit, she can get a plan actually from a clinician. She needs to wait a week time to get another appointment and then plan for the treatments or something. So for a better understanding of the initial things, this kit offers much of it. So once the clinician or the gynec understand this perspective, they are very much welcoming our products, and then they wanted to test it, and they have expressed, many of the clinicians have expressed their interest to be part of their clinical trials as they are moving forward.
One mistake that you have started out in your earlier days when building Thremear that you still apply and not to make that mistake, and the lesson you learned out of the mistake, can you briefly share it with us so that the budding entrepreneurs in the health tech field make sure that they don't repeat it, and it would be really helpful for them?
Not only for medtech, I would say, for any startup or any kind of business, there is a saying. Many people have already said about that, but as a new startup, we tend to forget the sayings and say the quotes. What I did is like we start up this startup as a friends. The three when the people have started, two of my colleagues who were like friends of mine for about 10 years. So we never thought of making an agreement, founders agreement or any other agreements. So we thought like we know each other for 10 years or more than 10 years with our own families also know each other. So there is nothing to, I mean, make it a draft or being legally bound agreements are not needed, we were thinking. But that hit us later in stages where we have to present the agreement in before of investors. That time we didn't have any much of these documents, and later part like when we had arguments with ourselves how well we have to focus on like during the product development also. So when the arguments come up, some people felt like out of three people, everybody has felt one time their own, uh, the indifferences with each other. So how well we are going to tackle? These are the things that we never thought of in the initial days. So I would really appreciate and I mean, advise the people to have the yearly founder agreements. Founder agreements in the sense not much of the clauses that have been there. According to your needs and then with your group, we can, I mean, always redesign and then modify. So the main mistake I would say is we didn't plan how well we are going to tackle about the indifferences that we used to face in the stage wise. So what is best for the company? That has to be the first priority rather than who is giving the best idea, or who have worked so far much time or who has invested more of their efforts. That doesn't matter actually. So this is the one thing I had learned a great lesson from my journey.
That's very deep to comprehend. And if you're starting Thremear again, like from the beginning, what is the one decision that you would take differently from the previous time?
That's a very great question. I used to think of it many times. The other lesson or other mistake I would say is not returnable things like we didn't much focus on the product development in the initial days. So the idea is that, and many people have given comments and many have given their suggestions that has given a great perspective to modify or keep on progressing the product development actually. But we were waiting for the perfect product actually. So that perfect moment never comes. That is another thing. Yeah, whatever the product that we have developed, maybe put on in the initial days, when we make it as a product into the market, we would have don't know about the failures or the optimizations that we need to carry out. But we were waiting for the perfect moment, and time has gone like that. Yeah. So whatever there will be keep on changes coming up. That is the another thing that I learned. And then if I have to restart again the trigger, I will definitely stick with what we have come up and then launch it actually. Launch the product into the market and then we will be keep on, I mean, improving it in the later stages.
So, again, entrepreneurship is a tough journey, and entrepreneurship in health tech is even tough journey. So, how are you overcoming this, and what helped you, navigate these challenges? Okay, I can do this better. even emotionally or operationally? What brought you to the kind of self satisfaction and helped you survive all these in a effective way?
I differ in this concept actually. So when people are talking about startups, everybody is saying that it is a tough journey. Yeah, of course, it is a tough journey. But as for my case, I never felt it so draining actually. Because when I consider the problems as for women who suffers like PCOS, I have literally seen people crying. Many people have come forward. The unknown people, I would say, like in Facebook groups or I have never even seen the faces of these women, but they have expressed openly with another women how far they have struggled. And then I have seen literally my sister now going through that kind of tough journey. Yeah, you can consider like when a woman lives in a village or in any kind of rural places, or those people will blame her for having not giving a pregnant or being infertile or something. So these are the changes that they have shaped their concept of approaching the world itself. I mean, as a woman, I have seen so many emotional moments of women who have gone through this part. So while considering that part, I would say my journey is not at all, hurdle or tough actually. So whenever I think of these women, I automatically get energy and then I start running off. And even when I feel tired or I feel defeated sometimes. So I really enjoy doing it. The sleepless nights, the opportunities I do miss, or anything that I keep taking as a positive way, and then it every day it energizes more. When I look back in my journey, I think every day I keep on getting more energy, and even though if I face any failures or hurdles, obstacles. So that was my journey. Actually, it keeps on making more energy toward coming into the future.
So, among the following, which slowed down the most and why? Among compliance, funding, validation, which one is most ringing and which one is a slow process? Why is that so? What is your take?
In my case, in our startup, actually, the funding is the main issue. So whenever there is a product development and that has to be from the scratch means as the bio person, the medical medtech space, the consumables, so the product development that cost more than comparing any other startups. For example, any tech-based startups or fintech, the cost involved in the product development is much less while comparing the medtech startups. So whenever we approach government grants or the investor, they really look into a broader perspective. Like for product development, this is the time period and this much is the cost mostly involved. That they have generalized opinion actually. So this was the one thing that I faced really challenging from the initial days, and it is still it is there. I can see in many of the medtech startups who used to suffer with the same kind of issues. Apart from that, hurdles on compliances or regulatory is common. Every fintech company has, every edtech company has it. So once there is enough funds for the product development, we can even prove it. It's worth right. So I will say the funding part is much.
So, what is your one advice for people who want to quit their job and get into the medtech today? And what should they be mentally prepared for to tackle here? What is the one advice?
If you have a really tough mind and really want to pursue, then you can quit the job and then come into this startup community, especially into the medtech. And as we were discussing, there will be many challenges, especially for the medtech in terms of funding and then regulatory aspects. Only if you can survive in this, then you can quit the job and come. If you are ready for that, and then there is another thing needed is to be resilient. And if you are resilient, you can get through any of the things. Not much as people are saying as the hurdle or something. You can really get through it when you are having a resilient mind.
So, when they come, initially they'll have very less resources in terms of monetary aspects, in terms of team size, everything would be very limited. So what should their top three priorities be in first year of starting the business? What are the three things that has to be their priority, and they can work on the others in the years ahead?
The first thing is, I would say, you need not to impress anyone. I mean, when you have a strong hold on your solution for a particular problem, you start work on it. You need not to impress anyone, even the investors, even the funding agencies, or even any of your incubators, accelerator program heads or something, because our product speaks for us actually. So when we were very tough with that part, and then we can even very that. So the first thing is not to, consider any other people or anyone to impress in the first few years actually. The second thing I would consider most is to stick with the team actually for the product development thing actually. So whenever we do our work perfectly, the funds will come up again. Because when I start up my start Thremear, we didn't have much of funds actually. So we started working on that. In the first 6 months itself, we got a grant actually from 6 month grants. So when we do our work consistently, the doors will open. I would say you need not to worry on things in the future. So you do your work consistently, and everything will come up with the right end. The third thing is to understand the basic actually. So, as I said, I was a researcher and didn't know much of the compliances of a startup or a company. So, this is very much essential to know about the financial part, to know about the compliances part, to know about the regulatory part. Every aspect you need to know. You need not to be a professional in that, but to understand the basics. So, these three things are very essential for in the earlier stage for any people who wants to have a startup.
So now let's jump onto the section for quick fire, where I'll ask you questions and your answer has to be as quick as possible. What is the one mistake that every medtech founder should avoid?
They need not to wait for funds. They should do by themselves. I mean, they need not to wait till the funds come so that they can optimize and then get ready of the products.
What is the one thing that matters more than funding in the early stage startups?
Understanding the market. The market keeps on changing, so we need to understand the evolution and then changing perspectives, and then we will also be evolving our thoughts accordingly.
And one thing you would start earlier, uh, if you had a second chance of starting again?
Personal branding, and then branding for our products and then company. That is very crucial. Now we know the importance of having a personal brand or about the company actually. So this is very essential in insurance.
And coming to the very intimate part of the session, how are you handling the work and personal life both parallelly? How is it for you in the balancing phase? If you ask me, I'll say there is no such thing as work-life balance. It's just going with the flow. But I want to know your perspective on the same.
Change in work-life balance. As I have done my PhD earlier, just after my marriage, I had a kid, and with that kid only I was doing my PhD. And then in 2015, all my 4 years of PhD work were gone due to some flood in Chennai, and I had to redo my work and then start off in the 2016, and then again there was that hit by natural calamities, cyclone. And so I have done 3 times my PhD, I would say. So every time that days, the research days has taught me the resilience and then stick to that path. And there was no 9 to 5 timings and all in the initial days. So it was not a different thing for me when I entered into this startup journey. So the research days has already taught me this part actually. But it was some tough moments were there. Like I felt guilty when I leave my 8 months old kids and all with my husband, and then I went for 2 weeks, 3 weeks out of station. So there were moments I felt guilty, but when I look into the bigger picture, like many of the women CEOs have said the same. They couldn't manage the family as well as work in a balanced way. They have to sacrifice something, to attain something, and I didn't make any choice like to sacrifice this or that. But whenever there is something, like for example, 20% I have to give my family time, means 80% I will give in company sometimes, and sometimes it was 80 is to 20. These are like the ratios that you have to keep on changing at times. So when there is a need, we need to be present and prioritize that part. And there was never a balance between work as well as family and other things. So still it is going on, and my family members are very supportive. Even my kid was very supportive to understand this part, and then giving me the space to work on the real or the tough parts of like the problem of society. And I'm always grateful for.
Lovely. And one more thing also I want to ask, and let's be very quick on this. Which is very difficult, parenting or entrepreneurship?
Parenting, definitely, I would say.
Yeah.
My daughter is now 10 years old and she is nearing the teen. Now it's tough, I feel a bit tough. And yeah, I would say many of the parents consider the same part.
So, how is saying no to things to your daughter different from saying no to the company things?
So it's not much actually because from my from her very young age onwards, like from her 3, 4 years onwards, the only person who is to say no in our family is myself for her actually. So many things I have restricted, and she would get anywhere through other family members actually. So when there is a startup, we have to be very careful because telling no to a daughter is a different way because we know I have the confidence and I know that she anyhow will be getting the good things from other people. She has other family members to rely on. But as a startup, we have to make a decision that has to be very much clear, and it impacts other people also in the startup, outside the startups, and the name of the startup also. So making decisions and making telling no is very essential, and we have to, very careful and to make that decision in a startup.
So, it was really lovely talking to you, Kalai. It really meant a lot. And thank you so much for coming to the show today. It was a great honor hosting you. And the conversation clearly shows that building in medtech is not just about innovation, it's about responsibility, patience, and long term thinking. That is really I admire about health tech, and Thremear offers a very real perspective on what it actually takes to build in health tech. And thank you for taking your time and attending the show with us. It was lovely hosting you, Kalai. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anvesha. And really, it's a very inspiring. I have seen you in many of the platforms, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about more about that other perspective of startup.
Lovely, lovely. The pleasure is all mine. So until next time, stay curious, and we'll meet in the next episode with a brand new guest. Signing off, Anvesha.